Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you all are doing well. This is Jack from byprogrammers.com and welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Code React Native. In this episode, we are going to build a pretty cool food delivery app based on the UI design that we have just bought recently. As you can see here, there are quite a number of screens, such as the onboarding screen, sign in, sign up, RTP, reset password, home screen, filter model, food detailed screen, and so on and so forth. Alright? For that reason, we are going to split this project into two different parts. For the first part, which is what we are going to cover later, we will mainly be focusing on the custom drawer navigator, followed by the home screen with custom bottom tabs, and lastly, we will work on the filter model. For the second part of this project, we will mainly be working on all the authentication screens, such as the sign-in screen, sign-up screen, RTP screen, and so on. Now, as a token of appreciation from us, if you were to get the source code of the first part of this project from shop.byprogrammers.com before we release the second part, you will be able to get the source code for the second part entirely for free without any additional charges. Unfortunately, we won't be able to cover all the other remaining screens, such as the checkout screen, delivery status screen, the map view, and so on, in the form of a video, but you will still be able to get the full source code of the entire project on shop.byprogrammers.com most probably by end of September this year. And of course, if you have already bought the source code of the first two parts of this project, you will certainly be entitled to a discount if you want to get the full template source code of this project in the future, so that you won't be paying extra for the codes you bought previously. Alright, now with that being said, let's get started. Alright, like I've mentioned earlier, for the first part of this project, we are going to build three different screens, which are the custom drawer navigator, the home screen with bottom tabs, and lastly will be the filter model. So just like the previous episode, instead of creating the project from scratch, we have actually prepared a starter template so that it will be a lot easier for you guys to follow along. So head over to the starter template, the link is in the description below. Go ahead, download the source code, and you should be able to get this. Once you get the source code, the first thing you need to do is to open up the terminal and run npm install. After that, we will need to run npx react native link. And lastly, we'll need to cd into iOS and run pod install. You can skip this step if you're running on Android. Alright, now cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, as you can see here, our start template is basically a plain screen that renders the main layout text. Now within our start template, we have the assets folder, which consists of the fonts, icons, and images that we are going to use later on in our project. And of course, we have the constants folder, and lastly followed by the screens folder. Okay. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do here is the custom drawer navigator over here. So head back to your source code. In the root folder, we need to create a new folder called navigation. And within the navigation folder, we need to create a new file called customdrawer.js. Now we need to import React from React. We need to import a couple of components from React Native. So we need view, text, image, and touchable opacity. And of course, we need to import from React Navigation /drawer. So for this, we need create drawer navigator, and also we need drawer content scroll view. Alright, and after that we need to import from screens. We need to import the main layout screen, which is basically this screen over here, and we need to sort of include it in the drawer. Okay. Alright, and lastly we need to import from constants. We need colors, fonts, sizes, constants, icons, and dummy data. Alright. After that, we can then create the drawer navigator like this. So constant drawer equals to create drawer navigator. Alright, and after this, we can then create the custom drawer functional component. So constant custom drawer equals to arrow function, and we will return a view for now. And don't forget, we need to export default custom drawer over here. Alright, now for the container view, we are going to give it some styling. So style flex equals to 1 and background color equals to colors.primary. Alright, now within the container view, we are going to render drawer.navigator. Okay, and we need to supply some props for the navigator. So over here, we need to supply the drawer type. It should be slide. Overlay color should be transparent, and we need to give the drawer a bit of styling. So drawer style equals to flex will be 1, width will be 65%, padding right will be 20, and background color will be transparent. After that, we have the scene container style, and the background color should be transparent as well. And lastly, the initial route name should be equals to main layout. Okay, now within the drawer.navigator, we need to render the drawer.screen component, and we need to supply some prop as well. The name should be equals to main layout like this. And for the drawer screen, we are going to make use of the children prop like this. Alright, so arrow function, and here we will render the main layout component like this. And of course, we will pass the prop over as well. Alright, now save it. In order to see the drawer navigator in action, we need to first head over to the app.js file, and over here, instead of importing from screens, we need to import from navigation custom drawer like that. So we need to import the custom drawer, and we will replace it with the main layout over here. Alright, now save it. Okay, as you can see here, the background color of the main layout screen has changed to orange, and that's because in the custom drawer.js, for the scene container style prop, we have set the background color to transparent, and this is so that we can achieve this result later on. Okay, and now if we were to slide the screen from left to right, we should be able to see the drawer in action. And all we need to do now is to customize the drawer so that it looks something like this. Alright, now in order for us to customize the drawer, we need to make use of the drawer content prop. So over here, drawer content equals to props arrow function, and we will return a custom drawer content component, which we are going to create shortly. Alright, and for this component, we need to supply the navigation prop like this. Alright, so navigation equals to props.navigation. Next, we are going to create the custom drawer content component over here. So constant custom drawer content equals to, and over here we need the navigation prop followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the drawer content scroll view component like that. For the drawer content scroll view, we need to make sure the scroll enable equals to true. And for the content container style, I want to make sure it's flex equals to 1, like that. Now within the drawer content scroll view component, I would like to render a container view, give it some styling. Flex should be equals to 1, and padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius. Now if we take a look at the mark, we need to render quite a bit of things over here. We need to first render the close button, and followed by the profile section, and lastly we have the drawer items. Alright, so over here within the container view, we need to render the close button, we need to render the profile section, and followed by the drawer item section, right? And for the close button, I'm gonna give it a container view as well, give it some styling. Align item equals to flex start, and justify content equals to center. And within the container view, we are going to render the touchable opacity, give it some styling. Align item should be equals to center, and justify content should be equals to center as well. And whenever I click on this button, I would like to close the drawer. So navigation.close drawer, like that. Alright, now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render an image. The source will be icons.cross, and the style will be height 35, width 35, and thin color equals to colors.white. Alright, save it and see what we got. Alright, cool. As you can see, we have the close button over here, and if we were to click on it, we should be able to hide the drawer like that. Perfect. Alright, next we will work on the profile section over here. So for this, we are going to make use of the touchable opacity component. Give it some styling. Flex direction equals to row. Margin top equals to sizes.radius. And align items equals to center. And whenever I click on this, I would just simply console log profile. Okay. Now within the profile section, we will be rendering the profile image on the left and followed by the text components on the right. Okay. So over here, we will first render the image like that, where the source will be dummy data.myprofile.profile image, and the style will be width 50, height 50, and border radius sizes.radius. Alright, save it. Okay, so the profile image is in place. All we need to do now is to render the text components over here. So for this, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. So margin left should be equals to sizes.radius. And within this container view, we need to render two text components like that. So for this, we will be rendering dummy data.myprofile.name. And the style for this will be, color will be white, and the font will be H3. Alright, and after this, we will simply render the text view your profile. Give it some styling as well. So color will be white, and the font will be body 4. Alright, save it. Perfect. Next, for the drawer item section, I'm gonna create a container view as well. Alright, give it some styling. So the flags should be equals to 1, and margin top should be equals to sizes.padding. And for the drawer item, since all the drawer item basically share the same properties, I'm gonna create a standalone component for them. Alright, so go back to the source code. Within the container view, I'm gonna render a custom component called custom drawer item. Right? And for this component, we need the label, which in this case is going to be constants.screens.home, and we need the icon as well. So for this, it will be icons.home. Alright, now we can then create the custom drawer item component over here. So constant custom drawer item equals to, we will be taking in two props for now. So we need the label and also icon, followed by the arrow function, and we will return a touchable opacity. Give it some styling. So flex direction equals to row, height will be 40, margin bottom will be sizes.base, align item will be center, padding left will be sizes.radius, border radius is going to be sizes.base, and we will work on the background color and also the onPress prop later on. Okay, for the background color, we need to know which drawer is currently being selected. For example, in this case, as you can see, the home is being selected because it has a bit of the background color over here. Okay, don't worry, we'll work on that later on by using Redux. So now within the touchable opacity, we will render an image component where their source equals to icon, and the style will be width 20, height 20, and the tint color will be colors.white. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have the icon in place. So after the image component, we need to render the text component over here. So for the text component, we will simply render the label prop. Give it some styling as well. Margin left should be equals to 15, color should be equals to white, and the font will be H3. Alright, save it. Alright, perfect. All we need to do now is to render the other drawer items by using the component that we have created over here. Alright, so scroll down, and over here, I'm gonna just copy the custom drawer item component, paste it like this. For this, it's going to be my wallet, and the icon will be wallet. Alright, save it. Oh, I think something wrong with my constants, that's why the label is not showing. So let's head to the constants folder, open up the constants.js file, and over here I will include the my wallet property as well. So my wallet will be my wallet, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So go back to the custom drawer.js. Same thing, I'm gonna repeat this same steps for notification. Here it's going to be notification as well. Save it. Alright, so far so good. Next one will be the favorite. Right, so over here it's going to be favorite, and the icons will be favorite as well. Save it. Perfect. And after the favorite drawer item, we have a line divider over here. So after the favorite drawer item, we need to render a line divider. And for this, we are going to make use of the view component. So give it a bit of styling. Height will be 1. Margin vertical will be sizes.radius. Margin left will be sizes.radius as well. And the background color is going to be colors.light gray 1. Yep, like that. Alright, save it. Okay. Alright, so after the line divider, we have track your order item. The icons will be location. Okay, save it. Next we have coupons. So icons.coupon. Alright. Followed by settings. Alright, followed by settings over here. Icon will be icons.setting. Save it. Okay, so far so good. After the settings, we have invite a friend, and lastly we have help center. Alright, so over here we have the invite a friend drawer item. Icon will be profile, and lastly we have the help center drawer item, and the icon will be icons.help. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have most of the drawer items in place. All we need to do now is to render the lockout drawer item at the bottom. Okay, so over here, after the drawer item container view, I'm gonna create another container view, give it a bit of styling. Like that, where the margin bottom should be equals to sizes.padding. Alright, now within this container view, same thing, I'm gonna render custom drawer item. The label will be lockout, and the icons will be icons.lockout. Alright, save it. Perfect. So what we are going to do next is that we are going to work on this drawer animation over here. Okay, so go back to your source code. In the custom drawer functional component, we need to create a state called progress. So constant progress set progress equals to react.useState, and this one is going to be new animated.value, and the initial value is going to be 0. After that, within the drawer content prop, we can then keep track of the props.progress for the animation, and we will keep it in our progress state. Alright, so state progress like that. And in order to make sure we don't get any warnings, we need to wrap this statement within set timeout. Okay, so set timeout, arrow function, and over here it's going to be set progress, like that. And for the time interval, you can just put 0. Okay. Now that we got the drawer progress state, next we can then make use of the drawer progress state to create the animations. Okay, so over here, the first thing we need is the screen scaling animation. So constant scale equals to animated dot interpolate not, and we are going to interpolate progress. Input range is going to be 0 and 1, and the output range is going to be 1 and 0.8. Now I'm gonna duplicate this, copy and paste it over here, and instead of scale, it's going to be border radius. Because for this animation, we are going to scale down the screen, and at the same time we are going to animate the border radius as well, as you can see here. Okay, so same thing, input range is going to be 0 and 1, and for the output range is going to be 0 and 26, like that. Alright, next we can then create the animated style. So constant animated style equals to border radius, and we are going to make use of the transform property. So transform scale, like that. Once we got the animated style, we can then pass it over to the main layout component. So over here, we are going to need a prop called drawer animation style, and we will pass the animated style over. Oops, animated style, like that. Alright, save it. Oh, I forgot, we need to import from the React Native reanimated library. Alright, so scroll to the top, and over here, I'm gonna import from React Native reanimated, and over here, we are going to import animated, like that. Save it. Alright, so head over to the main layout.js file, and the first thing I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna change the background color to white so that you will have a clearer picture, like that. Okay, next we need to import from the React Native reanimated library as well. So import from React Native reanimated, and we need animated. And for the prop, we need the drawer animated style, drawer animation style. And with this prop in place, we can then include it in the container view by using the spread operator like this. Okay, and lastly, in order for the animation to work, instead of view, we need to use animated.view. Same thing over here as well. Alright, save it. Alright, so as you can see here, the main layout screen has been scaled down properly, and the border radius style has been applied as well. And now if I were to close the drawer, the animation should work accordingly as well. Perfect. Alright, so before we move on to the main layout component or the home screen over here, we are going to first install React Redux library. This is so that we can keep track of the selected drawer item, and also to keep track of the selected bottom tabs over here. Okay. Alright, so go back to your source code, open up your terminal, and run npm install react redux and redux thunk. As usual, we need to close the app, like that. After that, we need to run npx react native link, and we need to cd into iOS and run pod install. And lastly, we can then cd back to the root folder and run react native run iOS. Alright, next we need to set up some of the boilerplates for React Redux. So to do that, we need to first create a folder in the root directory called stores. And within the stores folder, we will create another folder called tab. And within the tab folder, we will create two files. The first one is going to be tabactions.js, and the second one is going to be tabreducer.js. Alright, so for the tabactions.js file, over here we need to write quite a bit of boilerplate codes before we can use React Redux. Okay, so now we need to define the type of the action. So export constant set selected tab equals to set selected tab, and after that we can have the export constant set selected tab, which will receive one parameter called selected tab. Alright, and we are going to return dispatch arrow function, and we are going to dispatch the set selected tab success function by passing the selected tab over like that. And now we will create the set selected tab success function over here. So I export constant set selected tab success equals to selected tab as the parameter arrow function, and here we will have the type, which is set selected tab, and the payload is going to be selected tab. Oops, I should be using function here instead of constant, like that. Alright, next for the tab reducer file, we need to import from tab actions, and over here we will import everything as tab action types. After this, we will set up the initial state. So constant initial state is going to be selected tab, which is going to be empty. And over here we will define the tab reducer, and we are going to have two parameters over here. So state equals to initial state, and action arrow function we will switch based on action.type. And if the action.type equals to tab action types dot selected tab, then we are going to return the state itself, and also the selected tab will be override to action.payload dot selected tab. If the action.type is something else, so default, then we will simply return the state. And don't forget, we need to export default tab reducer. Alright, save it. And now within the stores folder, we will create a new file called root reducer.js. And for this, we need to first import from Redux, and we need the combine reducers, and also we need to import from tab reducer, and here is going to be tab reducer. And lastly, we will export default combine reducers tab reducer like that. Alright, save it. And lastly, in order to make sure we can make use of the tab reducer, we need to sort of inject it in the app.js file. So over here, we are going to import from Redux, and we need to import create store and also apply middleware. After that, we need to import from React Redux, we need the provider. After this, we need to import from Redux Thunk, and over here is going to be Thunk. And lastly, we need to import from stores root reducer, and for this it's going to be root reducer. Alright, so after you have imported all the necessary components, over here we can then set up the store by making use of the create store function. And over here we will pass the root reducer and also apply middleware thunk over. Alright, last but not least, all we need to do is to wrap this whole thing, the navigation container component, within provider, and the prop is going to be store like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, so we have created our store, and we have sort of, injected into our project over here. And now we should be able to use the React Redux in our project. So navigate to the custom drawer.js file, and over here we need to import from React Redux. We need to import connect, and after that we need to import from stores tab actions, and over here it's going to be set selected tab. After this, we need to write some boilerplates at the bottom of this file. Over here we are going to have one function called map state to props. It will take in one parameter called state, and we will return selected tab, and it's going to be state.tabReducer.selected tab. Alright, and after this we need another function called map dispatch to props. which will tag in one parameter as well called dispatch, and we will return set selected tab selected tab arrow function return dispatch set selected tab like that. What these means is that whenever we call the set selected tab, we will need to pass in the selected tab as the parameter, and it will actually trigger the set selected tab function, which we have already defined in the tab actions file over here. Okay, so after this we need to export default connect map state to props, map dispatch to props, and in bracket custom drawer, and we can get rid of this. Okay, now for the custom drawer component over here, we can then include the selected tab and also the set selected tab as the prop. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pass these two props to the custom drawer content component like this. Okay, we are passing the selected tab and also the set selected tab over is so that whenever we click on the drawer item, we can keep track of the selected tab. Okay, so for the custom drawer content component, we need to receive two more props, which are selected tab and also set selected tab like that. And now whenever I click on the home button, the home drawer item, which is this one over here. Alright, so on press, whenever I click on it, I would like to set selected tab equals to constants. I'm gonna just copy and paste from here like that. And also I would like to navigate to the main layout screen. And now that I'm here, I'm gonna include another prop called isFocus to the custom drawer item component. So isFocus equals to if the selected tab equals to constants dot screens dot home, then the isFocus is going to be true. Okay, so now for the custom drawer item component, we need to include two more props, which are isFocus and also onPress. So for the onPress, it's pretty straightforward. onPress equals to onPress, and if the isFocus is true like that, then the background color is going to be colors dot transparent black 1. If isFocus is false, then there will be no background color. Alright, save it. Now if I were to click on the home drawer item, we should be able to see this background color. There you go. Next, I'm gonna repeat the same steps for notification and also my favorite drawer item. You can do it for all the other drawer items as well, it's up to you. But for this project, I'll only be doing it for the home drawer item, the notification drawer item, and also the my favorite drawer item. Okay, so head over to the notification drawer item. Over here, I'm gonna just copy and paste it from the home drawer item. I'm gonna paste it over here, and I'm gonna change the home to notification like that. Same thing, I'm gonna copy and paste it over here as well, and I'm gonna change notification to favorite. Save it. Now if I were to click on the notification drawer item, we should be able to see the background color over here. Perfect. And same thing goes for the favorite drawer item. Sweet. Alright, so up to this point, we have completed the drawer navigator together with the drawer animations as well. Next, we'll move on to the home screen. Alright, so before we work on the content of the home screen, we will first look into the header and also the custom bottom tab navigator over here. And we will be doing these two components in the main layout component or the main layout screen. Okay, so go back to your source code, head over to the main layout.js file. Within the container view, we will have the header, the content, alright, and also the footer. The footer is going to be the custom bottom tab navigator. Okay, So before we start to work on these sections, we will need to first import a couple of components from the React Native. Alright, so we need view, we need text, we need touchable opacity, we need touchable without feedback, we need image, and also we need flat list. We also need to import a couple more hooks from the React Native reanimated library. So we need use shared value, use animated style, and also with timing. Later on, we'll be using these hooks to work on the animations for our custom bottom tab over here. Alright. After that, we will need to import from React Redux. We need connect, and also we will import from stores tab actions, and over here we need the set selected tab. After this, we also need to import the screens. Alright, so we need the screens. So we have home, search, card tab, favorite, and notification. These are the screens. Okay, these are the screens that will be used to render within the content section of the main layout screen. Alright, don't worry too much about this for now, and we will work on it later on. Okay, after this, we also need a couple of things from the constants as well. Alright, so we need colors, fonts, sizes, icons, constants, and also dummy data. Next, we need to make sure our main layout component or the main layout screen is actually connected to our React Redux. Alright, so to do that, I'm gonna head over to custom drawer, scroll to the bottom, and I'll copy the boilerplates and paste it in the main layout screen, just like that. Next, I'm gonna replace the custom drawer with main layout, and I'll get rid of this. Alright, so all we need to do now is to add a few more props for our main layout screen. Alright, so over here we need navigation, we need selected tab, and also we need set selected tab. Alright, save it. Alright, so we have sort of completed the setup for our main layout screen over here. Next, we'll move on to the header section. Okay, so for the header section, we have the title in the middle, drawer button on the left, and also the profile button on the right. Alright, let's see how we can do that. So for the header section over here, we will be creating a new component called header. Alright. So for this new component, we need the container style prop. Like that. The height will be 50. Padding horizontal will be sizes.padding. Margin top is going to be 40, and align item is going to be center. Alright, so after this, we need the title prop. So for the title, it's going to be selected tab dot to uppercase, like that. Alright, so next we'll need to create the header component. So to do that, head over to the root directory. We need to create a new folder called components. Within the components folder, we need to create a new file called header.js. And for this, we need to import from React. We need to import a couple of things from React Native. We need view, and also we need text. Alright. After this, we need to import from constants. We need fonts. Okay. Over here, we will set up the header functional component. So constant header equals to, for the props, we need container style and also title for now. Alright. Arrow function, and we will return a container view, give it a bit of styling. The flex direction should be equals to row, and we will include the style from container style as well. Alright, so container style, like that. So within the container view, we will have mainly three sections: the left component, the title, and also the right component. Right, so we have the left component, the title, and also the right component. We will first work on the title section first. Alright, so over here we need a container view, give it some styling. Flex equals to 1, align items equals to center, and justify content equals to center as well. And within this container view, we will render the text component, and here it's going to be title, give the text a bit of styling as well. So here it's going to be fonts tree. Alright. Okay, so don't forget we need to export default header as well. Alright, save it. Now in the components folder, we need another file called index.js. Okay, so over here we need to import from header. We need to import header component like this, and we need to export it over here. Alright, save it. Now in the main layout screen, scroll to the top, and over here we can then import the header from our components. Alright, so we can import header like this. Alright, save it. Alright, now the reason why the header is not showing in the main layout screen is because our selected tab is currently empty. Alright, so to get around with this, we will set a default value for the selected tab whenever the app is first loaded. Okay, so over here we will make use of the use effect hook. So react.use effect arrow function. Here's going to be an empty array, and we will set selected tab equals to constants dot screens dot home. Alright, save it. Okay, so as you can see, the header section is currently being rendered on the screen, just that we need to do a bit of fixing on the style. Right, so head over to the content section. We will need to create a container view like this and give it a bit of styling. The flex should be equals to 1. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to work on the left and also the right components over here. Okay, so head over to the header component, header.js file. Over here we need to add 2 more props, which are the left component and also the right component. Okay, and we will render the both left and right component like this. So we have the left component and also the right component. Okay, save it. Now go back to the main layout screen. Within the header component, we need to add a new prop called left component, and for this we will have a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling, width equals to 40, height equals to 40, align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, border width equals to 1, border color equals to colors.grade2, and border radius equals to sizes.radius. Alright, and within this touchable opacity, we are going to render an image. The source is going to be icons.menu. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have the left component being rendered over here, but I think we need to fix the styling issue in the header component over here. There's a bit of typo. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now, whenever I click on this left component over here, so on press, I would like to open the drawer. Alright, so navigation dot open drawer. Now, whenever I click on this button over here, we should be able to open the drawer, just like that. Perfect. Alright, so after the left component, we will need another prop called right component. And for this, same thing, we need touchable opacity as well. Give it a bit of styling. Border radius equals to sizes.radius. Align items equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. And within this touchable opacity, we will have an image component. The source will be dummy data, my profile, and profile image. Give it a bit of styling as well. Width equals to 40, height equals to 40, and the border radius equals to sizes.radius. Alright, save it. Perfect, so as you can see here, our header section is completed. Next, we'll be working on the custom bottom tab navigator over here. And if you pay close attention to the mark, there is actually a bit of a shadow on top of the tab bar. And in order to achieve this effect, we are going to use a library called React Native Linear Gradient. So scroll down and copy this, npm install. You can use yarn if you want to. So copy and paste it in your terminal like that. Alright, now I'm gonna close the app, and as usual we need to run React Native link, and we need to cd into iOS and run pod install. After that, you can then navigate back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now we can then import the linear gradient into the main layout screen. So over here, I'm gonna import from React Native linear gradient, and we need the linear gradient like this. Alright, now head back to the footer section. Over here, for the footer section, we need to first render a container view like this. Give it a bit of styling. Height should be equals to 100, and justify content equals to flex n. Alright, now within the container view, we are going to render the shadow effect like that, and also the tabs later on. Okay, so for the shadow, we will be using the linear gradient component. So start equals to x will be 0, y will be 0, n equals to x will be 0 and y will be 4. Colors will be colors.transparent and colors.lightgray1. And the style will be position absolute, top equals to -20, left equals to 0, right equals to 0, height equals to 100, border top left radius equals to 15, and border top right radius equals to 15 as well. Alright, save it. Oops, a bit of typo over here. It should be colors and not color. Alright. Oh, the reason why the shadow is not showing is because in the main container view over here, we need to get rid of the align items and also the justify content properties. I'm going to change this to colors.white as well, just to standardize the coding style. Okay, so save it. And there you have it. The shadow effect is now being rendered on the screen. So go back to the footer section. For the tabs, we are going to render another container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, flex direction equals to row, padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius, padding bottom equals to 10, border top left radius equals to 20, border top right radius equals to 20 as well, and the background color equals to colors.white. Alright, save it. Perfect, so we have the bottom tab container in place. All we need to do now is to work on the tab buttons over here. Okay, alright, so now within the tab container view over here, we will be rendering 5 custom component called tab button. Alright, so for the tab button, we are going to need a few props, which are the label. The label is going to be constants.screens.home. Next, we have the icon, which is going to be the icons.home, and we have its focus. It will be true if selected tab equals to constants.screens.home. Alright, and lastly, we have the unpressed prop. And whenever we click on this tab button, we will set selected tab to constants.screens.home like that. So for the bottom tab, we have the home tab, search, cart, favorite, and also the notification. So I'm gonna just simply copy and paste it over here, and I'm gonna change this to search. Alright, next we have cart. Okay, for this it's going to be favorite, and lastly we have notification. Alright, so now we are going to create the tab button custom component over here. Okay, so constant tab button. For the props, we have label, icon is focus and also unpress, followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return touchable without feedback, like that. The unpress is going to be unpress, and within the touchable without feedback component we are going to render two animated view, like that, and also another animated view over here, just like that. The reason why we are doing this is so that we can achieve the tap animations like this later on, alright? So for the outer view, we will give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1. Align items equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. Alright, now for the inner view, we will give it a bit of styling as well. Flex direction equals to row. Width equals to 80%. Height equals to 50, align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, and the border radius equals to 25. Alright, now over here, we are going to render the image. The source is going to be icon, and the style will be width 20, height 20, and for the tint color, I'm gonna put gray for now, okay? Save it and see what we got. Perfect. So now after the image component, if the tab is currently being focused, like this, we are going to render a text component that renders label, okay? And for this, the number of lines is going to be 1, and the style will be margin left sizes.base, color is going to be white, and the font is going to be H3, like that. Okay, save it. Oops, let me change the color to gray for now. Alright, and if I were to click on search, the label will be rendered accordingly as well. Alright, perfect. Now that we have the structure of the tab button in place, next we'll be working on the animations. There is actually quite a bit of work, but don't worry, we will do it one step at a time, okay? So head over to your main layout component. Over here, we need to first create the reanimated shared value. Okay, so reanimated shared value. Okay, so over here, constant hom tab flex equals to use shared value, and the initial value is going to be 1. Next, we have home tab color equals to use shared value, and the initial value is going to be colors.white. Now I'm going to copy these two statements and repeat the same steps for the remaining tab buttons, okay? So over here we have search. Alright, next we have cart. Okay, over here we have, here we have favorite, and lastly we have notification. Okay. Alright, so after the shared value, next we need to define the animated style. So over here we need to define the animated style. Okay. Alright, so over here constant home flex style equals to use animated style, arrow function, and here we are going to return flex, and it's going to be home tab flex dot value. Next we have the constant home color style equals to use animated style, same thing, arrow function, and here we are going to return the background color, and it's going to be home tab color dot value. Alright, so now I'm gonna copy these two animated styles and do the same thing for the remaining tab buttons. Okay. Alright, so for this, it's going to be search. Next, it's going to be cart. Alright. Over here, it's going to be favorite. And lastly, we have notification. Okay. Alright, now that we have already defined our animated style, next we are going to pass these styles over to our custom tab buttons over here. Alright, so right before the onPress prop, we will have two new props, which are outer container style, and it's going to be hom flex style. After this, we have inner container style, and it's going to be hom color style. like that. Alright, so I'm gonna copy and paste it over here as well. I'm gonna change this to search. Okay, I'm gonna paste it over here, same thing. I'm gonna change this to cart. Alright, and this one's going to be favorite. And lastly, we have notification, right? So now head over to the tab button component. Over here, we will be receiving two more props, which are outer container style and also inner container style. And for the outer container style prop, we are going to inject it over here. Okay, for this, we will convert it into an array like that. Let me arrange it properly. Okay. And we will include the outer container style over here. So outer container style. Okay. And for the inner container style, we are going to inject it over here instead. Same thing, I'm going to change this to array. Like that. And over here, inner container style. Okay. Now save it. Now if you were to click on the tab button, nothing should change. And that's because there's one more thing we need to do. So head back to the main layout component. Over here, right below this use effect hook, we need to create another use effect. Alright, so react.useEffect, same thing, arrow function, just that this time we are listening to selected tab. Like that. Okay. Alright, now within this use effect hook, if the selected tab equals to constants.screens.hom, the hom tab flags value equals to, we are going to make use of the with timing hook like this, and we are going to change the flags value to 4 with the duration of 500 milliseconds like that. Alright, next for the hom tab color dot value, same thing, we are going to make use of the with timing hook, and this time we are going to change it to colors.primary, same thing, with a duration of 500 milliseconds as well. If the selected tab is not hom, however, I'm gonna copy and paste it over here like this. The flags value should be equals to 1, and the tab color should be equals to white. Okay, now I'm gonna copy and repeat the same steps for the remaining custom tabs. Okay, so over here, I'm gonna replace hom with search. Alright, next it's going to be cart. Okay, this one's going to be favorite, and lastly it's going to be notification. Alright, save it. Alright, it works. Now if I were to click on other tab buttons, the animation should work as well. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to fix our styling a little bit so that it looks like our mark over here. Okay, so go back to the tab button component over here. For the image component, if it is currently being focused like this, we are going to render white color. If it's not, it's going to be gray. Save it. Alright, and for the color, it's going to be white. Okay, save it. It looks a lot better now. Great. Alright, so as of now, we have completed the header and also the custom bottom tab navigator. But before we can work on the home screen itself, we need to first render a flat list that will act as a container for each of these tabs over here. Alright, let's see how we can do that. In the main layout screen, scroll to the content section over here, right? Instead of rendering a text component, we are going to render flat list like this, okay? And for this flat list, we are going to set up the ref, and it's going to be flat list ref. And we are going to create this ref variable over here. Okay, so constant flat list ref equals to react.useRef. Alright. Now the reason why we need to set up the ref variable is so that later on we can scroll to the screen in accordance to the selected tab over here. Alright, so after ref we have horizontal, okay, scroll enabled should be equals to false, paging enabled, alright, snap to alignment should be equals to center, snap to interval should be equals to sizes.width, shows horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false, data should be equals to constants dot bottom tabs. the key extractor should be item arrow function item.id, like that. And lastly, we have the render item prop. So for this, we will have item index followed by arrow function, and over here we are going to return a container view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Height equals to sizes.height, and width equals to sizes.width. Alright, now within this container view, if the item label equals to constants.screens.home, then we are going to render the home screen, like that. Okay, and if the item.label equals to search, then we are going to render the search screen. Same thing, if it's cart, like this, then we are going to render cart tab screen. If the item.label is favorite, then we are going to render the favorite screen. And lastly, if the item.label equals to notification, then we are going to render the notification screen, like this. Alright, save it. Alright, so as you can see here, the home screen is currently being rendered in the content section. However, if I were to change to another tab, like this, it is still home screen being rendered over here. And that's because we need to make use of this flat list ref to scroll to the index in accordance to the selected bottom tab. Okay, so head over to the use effect hook over here. If the selected tab equals to home, then the flat list ref dot current, we can then scroll to index like this, and the index is going to be 0, animated is going to be false. Alright, so I'm gonna copy and paste it for the other bottom tabs as well. So for the search, index is going to be 1. Same thing for the cart, the index is going to be 2. For favorite, the index is going to be 3. And lastly, for notification, the index is going to be 4. Alright, save it. Now if I were to change the tab, the screen should change accordingly as well. Now let me quickly add a few text components so that we can, verify that it's actually working. Okay, so home over here, alright, I'm gonna just copy and paste it over search like this. We need the text component. I'm gonna change this to search, save it. Next we have cart. So for this, same thing, I'm gonna change this to cart, and we need text as well. Alright, next we have favorite, same thing. This one's going to be favorite. We need text component as well. And lastly, for the notification, same thing, I'm gonna paste it like this, change this to notification, and we need the text component over here as well. Alright, save it. Alright, now the screen should change in accordance to the selected tab. Perfect. Next, we'll move on to the home screen. Alright, so go back to your source code, open up the home.js file over here. Now I'm gonna close the other tabs like this. Alright, so over here, the first thing we need to do is to import a couple more components from React Native. So we need view, text, touchable opacity, image, text input, and flat list. Alright, and after this, we need to import from constants. We need fonts, we need sizes, we need colors, we need icons, and also we need dummy data. Okay. Alright, so now for the home screen, we will mainly divide it into two different sections. The first section is the search bar over here, and the second section is the scrollable list right underneath the search bar. Okay, so go back to your source code. I'm gonna get rid of all this. We will render a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flags will be equals to 1, and within this container view, we will mainly have two different sections, which are the search section and followed by the list section, right? And for the search section, we are going to render a new function called render search, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render search, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, flags direction equals to row, height equals to 40, align items equals to center, margin horizontal equals to sizes.padding, margin vertical equals to sizes.base, padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius, border radius equals to sizes.radius, and lastly the background color equals to colors.light gray 2. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the container in place. Now within the search container, we are going to have 3 different components, which are the search icon over here, followed by the text input, and lastly will be the filter button. Okay, so over here we have the icon, text input, and followed by the filter button. So for the icon, we are going to render an image component. The source is going to be icons.search, and the style will be height 20, width 20, and tint color should be colors.black. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So after the icon, we will be working on the text input. So for this, we will render a text input component, give it a bit of styling, flex equals to 1, margin left equals to sizes.radius, and the fonts will be body 3. The placeholder for this text input is going to be search food, like that. Alright, save it. Now for the last component, which is the filter button, we are going to render a touchable opacity. We will work on the unpressed method later on, so don't worry. Like that. And within the touchable opacity, we are going to render an image component where the source is going to be icons.filter, and the style will be height 20, width 20, and tint color equals to colors.black. Alright, save it. Perfect, we have completed the search bar, and next we'll move on to the list section over here. Okay, and for the list section, we are going to make use of the bottom-up approach, which means we will start building the components from the bottom and all the way up until the category section over here. However, before we can start to work in the components, we need to do a bit of setup in our hom.js file first. So go back to your source code. In the hom.js file, scroll up. Over here, we need to create a couple of state variables, alright? So first thing first, we need the selected category ID. Set selected category ID equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be 1. The selected category ID is actually for this section over here. Okay. Next, we need selected menu type. Set selected menu type, and the initial value is going to be 1. And the selected menu type is actually for us to keep track of the selected menu type over here. Okay. And over here, we need one more state variable called menu list. Set menu list, and the initial value is actually an empty array like this. Alright, now all we need to do is to populate the menu list based on the selected category ID and also the selected menu type, which are both 1 for now, so that we can populate the list for this section over here. Okay. Alright, so over here we need to make use of the use effect hook, arrow function, and over here is an empty array. And within this use effect, we are going to call a new function called handle change category. And we will need to pass in 2 parameters, which are the selected category ID and also the selected menu type. And we are going to create this function over here. So function handle change category, we will be taking in 2 parameters for this. So category ID followed by the menu type ID. Okay. Over here, it's going to be render section like that. Okay, so within the handle change category function, the first thing we need to do is to find the menu based on the menu type ID. Alright, so over here, let selected menu equals to dummy data.menu.find. I'm going to call this A followed by arrow function, where the A.id equals to menu type ID, like that. Alright, now that we got a list of menus where the ID equals to menu type ID, next we are going to set the menu based on the category ID. Alright, okay, so over here it's going to be set menu list, selected menu, dot list, dot filter, in bracket I'm gonna call this A, followed by the arrow function where the A dot categories dot includes category ID. Okay, now with the menu list in place, next we'll be working on this section over here. Okay, alright, now head over to the list section. Over here we are going to render a flat list like this, where the data is going to be the menu list that we have just populated. The key extractor is going to be item, arrow function, item.id. Shows vertical scroll indicator is going to be false. And lastly, for the render item prop, here it's going to be item index followed by the arrow function. And over here, I'm going to simply return a text component that renders item.name just to see if it works. Alright, save it. Perfect, so our flat list is indeed working. Okay, next we'll be working on these components over here. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we are going to create a standalone component called horizontal food cart for this section. Alright, so I'm gonna get rid of this text component and we are going to render a custom component called horizontal food cart. Don't worry, we are going to work on this shortly. So for this component, we need container style, where the height equals to 130, align items equals to center, margin horizontal equals to sizes.padding, margin bottom equals to sizes.radius. After that, we have the image style, where the margin top equals to 20, height equals to 110 and width equals to 110 as well. Alright, so after this we need to pass over the item, and lastly, whenever we click on this horizontal food cart, I would like to console log horizontal food cart like that. Alright, next we need to create this custom component in our components folder over here, but before that let me just hide these folders. Alright, now within the components folder, we need to create a new file called horizontal food cart. Same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import a couple of components from React Native. We need touchable opacity. We need view, we need text, and also we need image. And after that, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need the colors, fonts, sizes, and also icons. Alright, and over here we will then create the horizontal food cart functional component. So constant horizontal food cart, and for this component we will be receiving 4 props, which are container style, image style, item, and onPress. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and over here we will return something. Don't forget, we need to export default horizontal food cart as well over here. Alright, now for this component, we need to return a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling, flex direction equals to row, border radius equals to sizes.radius, background color equals to colors.light gray, 2, like that, and we will include the container style over here. Alright, now just to see if it works, I'm gonna save it first. Head over to the index.js file, and over here we need to import from horizontal food cart like that, and we need to export it over here. Alright, save it. Now go back to the home.js file, scroll to the top, and over here we need to import from components. Alright, and for this we will be importing the horizontal food cart. Okay, save it. Perfect, so we have the horizontal food cart container in place. Now for the horizontal food cart component, there are mainly 3 different sections, which are the image itself, followed by the info section, and lastly is the calorie section. Alright, so go back to the horizontal foot card component, and over here we have the image section, followed by the info section, and lastly will be the calories section. Okay, so for the image section, we will render an image component where the source is going to be item.image and the style is going to be image style, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Next, for the info section, we are going to render a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. The flex should be equals to 1. And within the info section over here, we will have name, description, and followed by the price. Alright, so over here we have the name, description, and the price. Alright, so for the name, we are going to render a text component, and for this it's going to be item.name. Give it a bit of styling. The fonts is going to be H3, and I would like to override the font size to 17. Save it. Alright, next we have the description. Same thing, it's going to be a text component, and for this it's going to be item.description. Give it a bit of styling as well. The color is going to be colors.darkgray2, and the fonts is going to be body 4. Alright, and lastly will be the price. Over here, same thing, it's going to be a text component, and for this it's going to be a $sign and followed by the item.price. Give it a bit of styling as well. Margin top is going to be sizes.base, and the fonts will be H2. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, and the last section over here will be the calorie section, and for this we need to render a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, position equals to absolute, top equals to 5, and right equals to sizes.radius. And within this container view, we have the image component where the source is going to be icons.calories, and the style will be width 30 and height 30 as well. Alright, save it. Perfect, we have the calorie icon in place. Next, we need to render the calorie itself by using the text component. So for this, it's going to be item.calories followed by the calories word over here. Give it a bit of styling. Color equals to colors.darkgray2, and the fonts will be body 5. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, next we'll be working on the menu type section over here. Okay, so go back to your hom.js file, scroll to the list section over here, and for this flat list we need to add a new prop called list header component. So for this we will render a container view like this. Alright, and within this container view we are going to render a new function called render menu types. Okay, and this one's going to be menu type, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render menu types, and we are going to return a flat list like this, and this flat list is going to be horizontal. The data is going to be dummy data.menu. Key extractor is going to be item arrow function item.id. Shows horizontal scroll indicator should be false. The content container style should be margin top 30 and margin bottom will be 20. Okay, and for the render item prop over here, same thing, we have the item index followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return a touchable opacity. Give it a bit of styling. margin left should be equals to sizes.padding, and margin right, if it's the last item, if the index equals to dummy data.menu.length -1, then the margin right will be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it will be 0. Okay, now within this touchable opacity, we are going to render the text component like this. And here it's going to be item.name. Give it a bit of styling over here. For the color, if the selected menu type equals to item.id, then the color will be colors.primary. If it's not, then it will be colors.black. Alright, and the fonts will be H3. Okay, save it. Perfect. Alright, now whenever we click on the menu type over here, on press, arrow function, we are going to set the selected menu type to item.id. And of course, we will call the handle change category function by passing the selected category ID over and followed by the item.id over as well. Okay, save it. Now we should be able to change the menu type. Perfect. Alright, next we'll be working on the recommended section over here. And if you pay close attention to the mark, you can see that the popular near you section and also the recommended section is actually quite similar, where they have the title on the left, the button on the right, and the list or the content located underneath, right? So for that reason, we are going to create a custom component for these two sections. Okay, so go back to your source code, scroll to the top, and over here we are going to create a new component called section. And for this component, we will be taking in 3 props, which are the title, unpressed, and also the children. Alright, so followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return a container view like that. And within this view, we are going to have 2 sections, which are the header section, which is basically this part over here. Alright, and followed by the content section. Okay, so for the header, we need another view. Give it a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row. Margin horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Margin top equals to 30. And margin bottom equals to 20. Now within this view, we need the title on the left and the button on the right. So for this, we need the text component. And here we are going to render the title. Give it a bit of styling. Flags equals to 1 and the font should be equals to H3. Alright, and after this, we have the button. So touchable opacity. The unpress should be equals to unpress. And within this button, we have the text component. And we are going to render show all like that. Give it a bit of styling as well. Color should be equals to primary, and the font should be equals to body tree. Alright, now for the content, we will simply just render the children prop. Okay, now that we have the section component in place, next we'll be working on the recommended section over here. Alright, so go back to the flat list over here. In the list header component, right above the menu type, we are going to render the recommended section like that. So for this, we are going to render a new function called render recommended section. And of course, we are going to create this function over here. So function render recommended section. And for this, we are going to return the section component that we have just created, like that, where the title is going to be recommended. And whenever I click on this, the show all button, I'm gonna console log show all recommended. Alright. Oh, and before we can work on the recommended list, we need to first populate it in the handle change category function. So for that, we need a new state over here. So constant recommends set recommend equals to react.useState, and the initial value is an empty array. And over here, within the handle change category function, we can retrieve the recommended menu. So to do that, let selected recommend equals to dummy data.menu.find. I'm gonna call this a followed by the arrow function where the a.name is equals to recommended, like that. Now once we got the recommended list over here, we can then set the recommended menu based on the category ID. Alright, so to do that, set recommends where the selected recommend dot list dot filter. I'm gonna call this a followed by the arrow function where the a dot categories dot includes category ID. Alright, now that we have the recommended menu based on the selected category ID, we can then go back to the recommended section over here. Within the section component, we are going to render the flat list where the data equals to recommends, and the key extractor is going to be item followed by the arrow function, and over here it's going to be item.id. It's going to be horizontal, and show horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. And for the render item prop, same thing. We have item followed by index, and then we have the arrow function. And for this, since it is actually quite similar to what we have over here, we are going to make use of the same component, which is the horizontal foot card. So over here, I'm going to return horizontal foot card like that, where the container style is going to be height 180, width will be sizes.width multiplied by 0.85, margin left. If it's the first item where the index equals to 0, then margin left will be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it will be 18. For margin right, if it's the last item where index equals to recommends.length minus 1, then margin right will be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it will be 0. Padding right will be sizes.radius, and align items will be center. Alright, now for the image style, margin top will be 35, height will be 150, and the width will be 150 as well. Same thing, I'm gonna pass the item over like this, and whenever I click on this component, I'm gonna console log horizontal foot card as well. Okay, alright, save it. Perfect, so we have the recommended section in place. Alright, cool. Next we'll be working on the popular section over here. Okay, so go back to the flat list in the list header component. Before the recommended section, we are going to render the popular section. Okay, so for this, we will be rendering a new function called render popular section. And same thing, we are going to create this function over here. Alright, so function render popular section, and for this function we are going to return the section component. Alright, for the title, it's going to be popular near you, and whenever I click on the show all button, so on press, I'm gonna console log show all popular items like that. Alright, save it. Before we can work on the popular list, we need to first populate it over here, just like how we did it for the recommended section. Okay, so over here we need to create a state variable, so constant popular set popular, and the initial value is an empty array as well. Alright, so over here we need to retrieve the popular menu. Let selected popular equals to dummy data.menu.find. I'm gonna call this A followed by the arrow function where the name equals to popular. Alright, now over here, I'm gonna set the popular menu based on the category ID as well. Alright, so set popular, selected popular, .list, .filter, I'm gonna call this A as well, followed by the arrow function where the A.categories includes category ID. Okay, now that we have the popular list in place, we can then head back to the popular section over here. Within the section component, we can then render the flat list. So the data is going to be popular, key extractor is going to be item followed by the arrow function and item.id. It should be horizontal, and the shows horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. And for the render item prop, same thing, we have the item followed by the index and then the arrow function. And over here, I'm gonna return a text component just to see if it works. And for this, we will render the item.name. Alright, save it. Perfect. So all we need to do now, is to create a custom component for this popular item. Alright, so go back to the source code. Over here, I'm gonna remove this text component. And for the new custom component, we're gonna call it vertical food cart. Okay. And for this component, same thing, we need the container style as well, where the margin left, if it's the first item, if the index equals to 0, then margin left will be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it will be a theme. For the margin right, if it's the last item, so index equals to popular.length -1, then margin right will be sizes.padding. If it's not, then it will be 0. Alright, I'm gonna pass the item over as well. And whenever I click on the vertical food cart, I'm gonna console log vertical food cart, just like that. Okay, now in the components folder, we need to create a new file called vertical food cart. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import from React Native. So for this, we need touchable opacity, we need view, we need text, and also we need image. Alright, and after that we need to import from constants. And for this, we need the colors, fonts, sizes, and also the icons. Alright, next we can then create the vertical food cart functional component. So constant vertical food cart. And for this component, we will tag in 3 props, which are the container style, the item, and also the arm press. Alright, followed by the arrow function. And over here, we will return something. Don't forget, we need to export default vertical food cart. Alright, so for this component, we will be returning a touchable opacity, like that, where the style equals to width 200, padding vertical equals to sizes.radius, padding horizontal. Well, in fact, we can change it to padding equals to sizes.radius since they are the same. Okay, so align item equals to center, border radius equals to sizes.radius, background color equals to colors.lightgray2, and lastly, we will include the container style like this. Alright, save it. Next, I would like to make sure that this component is working properly. So go to the index.js file. Over here, I'm gonna copy and change this to vertical food cart. And I'm gonna export it over here, save it, and go back to the hum.js file, scroll to the top. Over here, we will be importing the vertical food cart as well. Alright, save it. Sweet. So we have the vertical food cart container in place. Okay, now within the vertical food cart, we have mainly 3 different sections, which are the calorie section, followed by the image section, and lastly is the info section. Okay, so go back to your vertical foot card component, and over here we have 3 sections, which are the calories and favorite section. After that we have the image section, and lastly is the info section. Alright, so for the first section over here, we need a container view where the style equals to flex direction row. And within this view, we are going to render 2 things, which are the calories and also favorite. Alright, so for the calories, we need another view as well. Give it a bit of styling, where the flex equals to 1 and the flex direction equals to row. Alright, now within this view, we are going to render an image component where the source is equals to icons.calories and the style will be width 30 and height 30 as well. Alright, save it. Alright, cool. Next we need to render the text component over here, and for this we will render item.calories and followed by calories. Give it a bit of styling. Color equals to colors.darkgray2 and the fonts equals to body 5. Alright, save it. Okay, next for the favorite section, we will be rendering an image component where the source equals to icons.live and the style will be width 20, height 20, and the tint color, if the item is favorite equals to true, then it will be colors.primary. If it's not, then it will be colors.gray. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, next for the image section, which is this section over here, we need another view as well, like this. Give it a bit of styling, where the height equals to 150, width equals to 150, align item equals to center, and justify content equals to center as well. Alright, now within this view, we will render an image component like that, where the source equals to item.image and the style will be height 100% and the width 100% as well. Okay, save it. Sweet, we are almost there. And lastly, for the info section, same thing, we need a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Align item equals to center and margin top equals to -20. Now within this view, we are going to render the name followed by the description, and lastly will be the price. Okay, alright, so for the name, we need the text component that renders item.name. Okay, give it a bit of styling. The fonts should be H3. Okay, next for the description, same thing. It's going to be a text component, and over here we'll be rendering item.description. Give it a bit of styling as well, where the color equals to colors.darkgray2, text align equals to center, and the fonts equals to body 5. Like that. Okay, save it. And lastly, for the price, we are going to render the text component as well. And for this, it will be a $sign followed by the item.price. Give it a bit of styling as well, where margin top equals to sizes.radius and the fonts will be H2. Like that. Save it. Perfect. Okay, next we'll move on to the food category section over here. Alright, so go back to the harm.js file, scroll to the flat list. Over here in the list header component, before the popular section, we are going to render the food category section like this. Okay, and for this, we are going to render a new function called render food categories. Same thing, we are going to create this function over here. So function render foot categories, and for this function we are going to return a flat list as well. The data is going to be dummy data dot categories. Key extractor is going to be same thing, item followed by the arrow function, and over here it's going to be item.id. Horizontal, and the show horizontal scroll indicator should be equals to false. And for the render item prop, same thing, we have the item followed by index, and then we have the arrow function, and over here we are going to return a touchable opacity like that. Give it a bit of styling, so style equals to flags direction will be row, height equals to 55, margin top equals to sizes dot padding, margin left equals to if it's the first item, which means the index equals to 0, then margin left will be equals to sizes dot padding. If it's not, then it will be sizes dot radius. Margin right will be if the index equals to dummy data dot categories dot length -1, which means the last item, then the margin right will be sizes dot padding. If it's not, then it will be 0. Alright, the padding horizontal should be equals to 8, and border radius should be equals to sizes dot radius. And for the background color, if the selected category ID equals to item.id, then the color will be primary. If it's not, then it will be colors.light gray. That one, yep. Alright, now save it and see what we got. Perfect, so we have the container in place. Now within each of these container, we are going to render the icon and followed by the category name. Okay, so over here, we are going to render an image component like that, where the source will be item.icon, and the style will be margin top equals to 5, height will be 50, and the width will be 50 as well. Alright, save it. Okay, now after the icon, we are going to render the text component. Alright, so over here, we are going to render item.name. Alright, give it a bit of styling, where align self equals to center, margin right equals to sizes.base, and color equals to if the selected category ID equals to item.id, then the color will be white. If it's not, then it will be dark gray. Okay, and lastly, the fonts will be H3. Alright, save it. Sweet. Now whenever we click on each of these category over here within the touchable opacity component, for the unpressed prop, we are going to set the selected category ID equals to item.id, and we are going to trigger the handle change category function by passing the item.id and also the selected menu type over. Okay, save it, and now we should be able to change the category. Perfect. Great. Alright, next we'll move on to the last section of the home screen, which is the delivery to section over here. Okay, so go back to your source code in the home.js file, scroll down, and over here in the list header component, before the food category section, we are going to render delivery to section. Okay, and for this, we are going to render a new function called render delivery to function. Okay, so for this, same thing, we are going to create it over here. So function render delivery to, and over here we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, where margin top equals to sizes.padding and margin horizontal equals to sizes.padding as well. So within this container view, we are going to render a text component, and here it's going to be deliver, I think it's called delivery to, yeah, delivery to, and the style will be colors.primary, and the font, it's going to be fonts.body tree. Alright, save it. Alright, so after this text component, we are going to render the address. Alright, so for this, we are going to use touchable opacity, like that. Give it a bit of styling as well. Flex direction equals to row, margin top equals to sizes.base, and align items equals to center. Okay, so within this touchable opacity, we are going to render the address. So here it's going to be dummy data dot my profile dot address. Alright, and the style will be fonts head 3. Okay, save it. Perfect. And all we need to do is to render the down arrow icon over here. Alright, so for that we need an image component where the source will be icons.down arrow, and the style will be margin left sizes.base, height it's going to be 20, width is going to be 20 as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Oh, and as you can see here, some parts of the list content is being hidden by the bottom tab navigator over here. And in order to fix this, in the flat list over here, after the render item prop, we are going to make use of the list footer component prop, and over here we will simply return in view, give it a bit of styling where the height equals to 200. Alright, now save it. Let's see if it fixes the issue. Alright, perfect. Alright, so that's all for the home screen. Next we'll move on to the filter model. Alright, so go back to the source code in the home.js file over here. After the render search function, we are going to render a custom component called filter model. Don't worry, we will create this later on. Okay, alright, so for the filter model, we need two props, which are the isVisible and also the onClose prop. Alright, so before we work on these two props, we need to first create the state over here. Alright, so after the manually state, we are going to create another state called show filter model. Set show filter model like that equals to react.useState, and the initial value is false. Alright, now go back to the filter section over here. Okay, for the filter section, the isVisible is equals to show filter model, and the onClose prop is going to be an arrow function like that, and here we will set the filter model to false. Alright, so set show filter model equals to false, and we will only render this component if the show filter model equals to true, like that. Alright, now in the render search function over here, for the filter button, whenever I click on it, I would like to set show filter model equals to true. Alright, that's pretty much all we need to do in the home.js file. Next, in the home folder, we need to create a new file called filter model. Okay, same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import a couple of components from React Native. So for this, we need view, we need text, we need animated, we need scroll view, we need touchable without feedback, and also we need model. Alright, after that, we need to import from constants, and here we need colors, fonts, sizes, constants, and also icons. Alright, so after this, we can then create the filter model functional component. So constant filter model, and for this model, for this component, we will be taking in two props, which are the is visible, and also unclose, followed by the arrow function, like that. Don't forget we need to export default filter model as well. Alright, oops, a bit of typo. Alright, now within the filter model, we are going to return a model component like that, and we need to supply some props for the model. Animation type equals to fade, transparent equals to true, and visible equals to is visible. Okay, now within the model component, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, and background color equals to colors.transparent black 7, like that. And the first thing we are going to do for this model is actually the transparent background over here. And whenever we click on this transparent background, the filter model should be hidden. Alright, so over here within the container view, we are going to render the transparent background like that. And for this, we need the touchable without feedback component, touchable without feedback, and the unpress should be equals to arrow function set show filter model equals to false. Alright, and we need to create this state over here. Okay, so constant show filter model set show filter model equals to react.useState, and the initial value is visible, like that. The reason why we need to do this instead of using the isVisible prop directly is so that later on it will be easier for us to animate this model over here. Alright, okay, now over here we need to make use of the use effect hook. So react.use effect, same thing, arrow function, and this use effect will listen to the show filter model state, like that. And if the show filter model equals to false, then we will simply trigger the onClose prop, like that. Don't worry, we are going to replace this later so that we can animate the model. Alright, so now save it and go back to the hum.js file, scroll to the top. Over here we are going to import the filter model like this. Alright, save it. Now if we were to click on this button, we should be able to see the model fade in. Let's see. Oh, the reason why it's not working is because we forgot to include the filter model in the index.js file. So over here we need to import filter model from /hom/filter model, like that, and we need to export it over here. Save it. Now if we were to click on the filter model button, oh okay, the reason why we are still getting issue is because in the filter model.js over here within the touchable without feedback component, we need to supply the children. Alright, so for this we are going to render an empty view like this, give it a bit of styling. The position should be equals to absolute, top equals to 0, left equals to 0, right equals to 0, and bottom equals to 0. Alright, now save it. Okay, if I were to click on this button, a model should fade in like this. And if I were to click on the transparent background, the model should fade out like that. Perfect. Alright, so now that we have the transparent background in place, next we are going to work on this container view with animations. Alright, so go back to your source code. After the transparent background over here, we are going to render animated.view. Give it a bit of styling. Position should be equals to absolute, left equals to 0. The top property is what we are going to animate, and we will come back to this later. Okay, so for the width, it's going to be 100%. Height equals to 100% as well. Padding equals to sizes.padding. Border top right radius equals to sizes.padding. Border top left radius equals to sizes.padding as well. And lastly, the background color should be equals to white. Alright, now in order to animate the top property over here, we need to first initialize an animated value. So constant model animated value equals to react.useRef, and the initial value is new animated.value 0.current, like that. Alright, now for the use effect hook, instead of closing it directly, I'm gonna animate it. Alright, so if show filter model equals to true, then I'm gonna make use of the animated.timing to change the value of model animated value to value 1 based on the duration of 500 millisecond. Use native driver will be false. Don't forget we need to start it at the end, like that. If the show filter model equals to false, however, I'm gonna copy this, okay, and paste it over here. Instead of to value to 1, I'm gonna set it to value to 0. And we are going to supply a callback function for the start method, like this. And over here, we will simply trigger the onClose. Alright, next, we can then interpolate the model animated value like this. So constant model y equals to model animated value dot interpolate. For this, we need the input range, which is going to be 0 and 1, and the output range is going to be sizes.height and sizes.height minus 680, like that. After that, we can then copy this interpolation and paste it over here. So top equals to model y, like that. Save it. Now whenever I click on this button over here, this animated view should slides up from the bottom. Okay, let's see. Perfect. And if I were to click on the transparent background, this animated view should slides back to the bottom. Alright? Perfect. Cool. Okay, now that the container is in place, next we'll be working on the header section over here. And for the header section, we have the title on the left and followed by the icon button on the right. Okay, so go back to your source code within the animated view over here. We are going to render the header section like that. And for this, we are going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling. The flex direction equals to row, and the align item should be equals to center. Alright, so over here, we need to render the title, filter your search, like that. Give it a bit of styling as well. Flex equals to 1, and the fonts should be equals to H3, just that I would like to override the font size to 18, like that. Save it. Okay, now for the icon button, I'm going to create a custom component called icon button, like that. And for this component, we need the container style, where the border width equals to 2, border radius equals to 10, and the border color equals to colors.gray2. And for the icon, it's going to be icons.cross, and the icon style is going to be thin color, colors.gray2. And lastly, whenever I click on this icon button, so on press, I'm going to set the show filter model equals to false. Alright, after that we can then head over to our components folder, and over here we need to create a new file called icon button. Same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import from React Native as well. And for this, we need the touchable opacity and also image. Alright, and after that we need to import from constants, and we need colors. Alright, now over here we can then create the icon button functional component. So for this, we need 4 props, which are container style, icon, icon style, and also on press, followed by the arrow function. And over here we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default icon button. Alright, so over here we are going to return a touchable opacity, and for the style, it's going to be container style like this. Alright, and for the unpress, it's going to be unpress as well. Okay, so within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the image where the source will be icon and the style will be width 30, height 30, tint color equals to colors.white, and lastly we will include the icon style. Alright, save it. Now head over to the index.js file, and over here I'm gonna just simply copy and paste it like this. I'm gonna replace this to icon button and I will export it over here. Alright, save it. Now head back to the Modal.js, scroll to the top, and over here we need to import from components, and we need icon button. Alright, save it. Sweet. And if I were to click on this button over here, we should be able to close the modal. Perfect. Alright, so after the header section, next we'll move on to the distance section over here. And we are going to wrap all these sections. So we have distance, delivery time, pricing range, rating, and tags. We are going to wrap all of them within a scroll view. Okay, so over here, after the header section, we are going to render a scroll view like this, where the shows vertical scroll indicator equals to false, and I would like to give it a bit of padding bottom as well. So content container style padding bottom equals to 250, like that. Alright, now within the scroll view, we are going to render the distance section. And if you take a look at the mark, all these sections over here are actually quite similar, where we have the title and followed by the content. For that reason, I am going to create a custom component called section over here. Alright, so constant section, and for this component it will receive 3 props, which are container style, title, and children. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and for this we will return a container view, give it a bit of styling, margin top equals to sizes.padding, and we will include the container style like this. Right, now within this view, we are going to render the title like that, give it a bit of styling as well. The fonts should be equals to H3, and after that we can render the children. Alright, okay, now go back to the distance section over here. We are going to render a new function called render distance, and we are going to create this function over here. Okay, so function render distance, and we are going to return the section component that we have just created, where the title equals to distance. Save it. Alright, so as you can see here, the section component is indeed working. Alright, now for the distance section, we need a 2-point slider like this. Alright, and in order to achieve this, we are going to make use of a library called React Native Multi-Slider. So scroll down over here, copy this, npm install, go back to your source code, open up your terminal, paste it over here, hit enter. Alright, next I'm going to close the app like that. Now I'm going to run React Native link. After that we need to cd into iOS and run pod install. And lastly we need to cd back to the root directory like that and run React Native run iOS. Alright, now let me open the model, and within the section component we need to render a container view like this. Give it a bit of styling. Align items equals to center. Now within this container view, we are going to render this 2-point slider. And since we are going to use it over here as well, we are going to create a custom component for this multi-slider. Alright, so go back to your source code and over here, we are going to create a custom component called 2-point slider. Alright, and for this component, we need a few props, which includes the values. And for this, it will be 3 and 10. Min equals to 1, max equals to 20, postfix equals to km, and on value change equals to values. Arrow function, I'm gonna just simply console log values like that. Alright, now in the components folder over here, we need to create a file called 2-point slider. Same thing, we need to import from React. We need to import from React Native. And for this, we need view, tags, and also style sheet. Like that. After that, we need to import from the React Native multi-slider. So over here, it will be multi-slider. After that, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need colors, fonts, and also sizes. Alright. After that, we can then create the functional component. So constant 2-point slider. And for this, we need a few props, which includes the values, min, max, prefix, postfix, and also on values change. Followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default 2-point slider over here. And before we work on the 2-point slider component, we need to define the shadow style. Alright, so constant styles equals to style sheet. Style sheet dot create, and over here it will be dot create, and over here it will be shadow, like that. Shadow color is going to be black. Shadow offset will be width 0 and height will be 3. After that, we have the shadow radius equals to 1 and shadow opacity equals to 0.1. Alright, so now over here we are going to return multi-slider. Alright, the values equals to values. Slider length equals to sizes.width minus in bracket sizes.padding times 2 minus 20. The min equals to min, max equals to max, step equals to 1, marker offset y equals to 20, selected style equals to background color, colors.primary, track style equals to height will be 10, border radius will be 10 as well, and background color equals to colors.light gray 2. Alright, so after this we have the mean marker overlap distance equals to 50, and custom marker equals to e and arrow function, like that, and we will return a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Height equals to 60, align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well. And within this view, we need another view with a bit of styling. What we are doing here is basically to achieve this, alright, this custom marker over here. So for the style, we have height 30, width 30, border radius equals to 15, border width equals to 4, border color equals to colors.white, and background color equals to colors.primary, and lastly we will include the shadow as well. Alright, now let me save it first and see if it's working. So head over to the index.js file, and over here I'm going to just simply copy and paste and rename it to 2-point slider, and I'm going to export it over here. Now head back to the Future Modal.js, scroll to the top, and over here we need to import 2-point slider. Alright, save it. Okay, the slider is indeed working, just that we need to do a bit of fixing over here. Alright, so go back to the 2-point slider.js file. After the view, we are going to render the value like this. Alright, so for this text component, we need to render prefix followed by e.currentValue and followed by the postfix, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Margin top equals to 5, color equals to colors.dark gray, and the fonts will be body tree. And last but not least, we need to specify the on values change prop equals to values followed by arrow function on values change values, like that. Save it. Perfect. Alright, so after the distance section, next we'll be working on the delivery time section. So go back to your source code, head back to the Future Modal.js, scroll to the bottom, and over here, after the distance section, next we are going to render the delivery time section. And for this, we will be rendering a new function called render delivery time. And of course, we are going to create this function over here. So function render delivery time, and we are going to return our section component like this, where the title is going to be delivery time and the container style is going to be margin top 40, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, now within this section component, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling, where the flex direction equals to row and the flex wrap equals to wrap. Okay, and now within this container view, we are going to make use of the map method to render these three delivery time. Alright, so over here, constants dot delivery time dot map, here is going to be item index followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return a custom component called text button, like that. And for this component, we need to supply the key. Alright, delivery time dash index, like that. If we don't supply the key prop, React Native will throw us a warning. Alright, so after this, we have the label equals to item.label. We have the label style, where color is the item.id equals to delivery time. This is actually a state that we are going to create shortly, so don't worry. If the item.id is equals to the delivery time, then the color is going to be colors.white. If it's not, then it will be colors.gray, and the fonts will be body tree. Alright, before I forget, let me just create the state first. So scroll to the top over here, constant delivery time set delivery time, like that, equals to react.useState, and the initial value is actually an empty string. And now that I'm here, I'm going to create the state for the ratings over here and also the tags section over here. Alright, so I'm gonna just do it like this: constant ratings set ratings, and the initial value equals to, same thing, an empty string. And after that, we have the tags set tags, and the initial value is going to be an empty string as well. Alright, so go back to the delivery time section. Over here, we need to supply the button container style as well, where the width equals to 30%, height equals to 50, margin equals to 5, align items equals to center, border radius equals to sizes.base, and for the background color, if item.id equals to the delivery time, like that, then the background color is going to be colors.primary. If it's not, then it will be colors.light gray too. And lastly, whenever we click on this text button, so unpress, we are going to set the delivery time equals to item.id, like that. Alright, now in the components folder, we need to create a new file called text button. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need the touchable opacity and also the text component. Alright, and after that we need to import from constants, and we need fonts and also colors. Alright, and now over here we can then create the text button functional component. And for this component, we will be taking in 4 props, which are the label, label style, button container style, and also the unpress prop, right? Followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default text button over here. Alright, and for this, we'll be returning a touchable opacity. Give it a bit of styling. The align items should be equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. Background color equals to colors.primary. And we are going to include the button container style like this. Alright, the unpress equals to unpress. And within this touchable opacity, we are going to render the text component. And here it's going to be label, give it a bit of styling as well. Color equals to white, and the fonts equals to H3. And of course, I would like to include the label style as well. Alright, save it. Now in the index.js file, I'm gonna copy, paste it, and rename it to text button, and I will export the text button over here like that. Save it. Alright, now go back to the filter-modal.js, scroll to the top, and over here we need to import from the text button like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. So we have the delivery time section in place as well. Just that I think we need to give it a bit of space over here, so head back to the delivery time section. Over here, the margin top should be equals to sizes.radius. Let's see how it goes. Yep, a lot better now. Perfect. Alright, next we'll move on to the pricing range section over here. Okay, same thing. Scroll down, and over here, after the delivery time section, we are going to render the pricing range section like that. And for this, we are going to render a new function called render pricing range. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render pricing range, and for this, we are going to return the section component like that, where the title is going to be pricing range. Alright, and since the pricing range section is actually very similar to the distance section over here, we can actually reuse the component 2-point slider that we have built just now. Okay, so within the section component, we need a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. The align item should be equals to center. Now within this container view, we are going to render the 2-point slider like that. So values is going to be an array of 10 and 50. Oh, just in case if you don't know, values is actually referring to the default values. Okay, min equals to 1, max equals to 100, prefix equals to $, postfix equals to an empty string, and on values change equals to values. Arrow function, I'm gonna just simply console log the values like this. Alright, save it. There you go, as simple as that. Perfect. Alright, so after the pricing range section, next we'll be working on the rating section over here. Alright, same thing. Over here, we are going to create a new section called ratings, right? And over here for this, we are going to render a new function called render ratings. Same thing, I'm gonna create this function over here. Function render ratings, and we are going to return our section component where the title is going to be ratings and the container style is going to be margin top 40. Alright, save it. Now within the section component, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row. Justify content equals to space between, like that. Alright, now for the ratings section over here, we are going to make use of the map method as well, just like how we did it for the delivery time section. Just that we'll be creating a new custom component called text icon button for the rating section. Alright, so over here, constants.ratings.map, item index followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return a custom component called text icon button. And for this component, we need to supply the key prop ratings dash index, like that, and we need to supply the container style flex equals to 1, height equals to 50, margin equals to 5, align items equals to center, border radius equals to sizes.base, and the background color, if the item.id equals to ratings, then the background color will be primary. If it's not, then it will be light gray too. Alright, after that we have the label equals to item.label. Next we have label style. For the color, if the item.id equals to ratings, then it will be white, or else it will be gray. Okay, next we have icon equals to icons.star. After that we have icon style, where the tint color, if the item.id equals to ratings, then it will be white, or else it will be gray. And lastly, for the unpressed prop, it's going to be an arrow function, and whenever I click on this text icon button, I'm going to set the ratings to item.id. Alright, now we can then head over to the components folder. Over here, we will create a new file called text icon button. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need touchable opacity, we need text, and we need image. Alright, and after that we need to import from constants, and for this we need fonts and also colors. Alright, now we can then create the text icon button functional component. So constant text icon button. For this component, we will be taking in 6 props, which are container style, label, label style, icon, icon style, and unpress. Alright, after that, arrow function. Over here, we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default text icon button. Alright, so for this component, we will be returning a touchable opacity. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row. Align items equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. And we will be including the container style like this. Okay, alright, the onPress equals to onPress, and within this touchable opacity, we are going to render the label by using text component like this. So over here it's going to be label, give it a bit of styling, where the fonts equals to body tree, and we will be including the label style as well, like that. Alright, save it and see if it works. So go to the index.js file, and over here I'm gonna copy, same thing, paste it over here and rename it to text icon button. And I'm gonna export it over here. Alright, save it. Now head back to the Future Modal .js file, scroll to the top, and over here we need to import from text icon button. Save it. Sweet. All we need to do now is to include the icon like this. Alright, so head back to the text icon button.js file. After the text component, we are going to render an image component like this, where the source will be, where the source is going to be icon, and the style will be margin left equals to 5, width equals to 20, height equals to 20 as well, and the tint color equals to colors.black. And of course we need to include the icon style as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, now for the last section, we'll be working on the text section over here. Okay, same thing. Head back to the Future Modal.js, scroll to the bottom, and over here, after the rating section, we are going to render the text section like this. Alright, and for this, we need a new function called render text. Same thing, we'll be creating this function over here. Alright, function render text, and we are going to return a section component like that, where the title is going to be text. Alright, save it. And within the section component, we'll be rendering a view, a container view like this, where the style will be flex direction equals to row, and flex wrap equals to wrap. And within this container view, we are going to make use of the map method together with the text button custom component to render these sections over here, these buttons over here, sorry. Yep. Alright, so over here, constants.text.map. Here's going to be item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the text button like that, where the key equals to text dash and followed by the index. Label equals to item.label. Label style equals to color. If the item.id equals to text, then it will be white. If it's not, then it will be gray. And the font style will be body tree. Okay, and the button container style, height will be equals to 50, margin equals to 5, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding, align items equals to center, border radius equals to sizes.base, and the background color equals to, if the item.id equals to text, then the background color will be primary. If it's not, then it will be light gray too, like that. And of course, whenever I click on this text button, I would like to set text to item.id. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright guys, we are almost there. For the last component that we'll be working on for this project is the apply filter text button. I would say this is pretty straightforward because we can make use of the text button custom component that we have created early on. Alright, so in the future modal.js file, scroll to the bottom. after the scroll view, we are going to render the apply button, right? So for this, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Position equals to absolute. Bottom equals to 150. Left equals to 0. Right equals to 0. Height equals to 110. Padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Padding vertical equals to sizes.radius. And background color equals to colors.white. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render the text button component. So for this, the label is going to be apply filters, and the button container style, the height is going to be 50, border radius equals to sizes.base, and the background color equals to colors.primary. And whenever I click on this button, I'm going to simply console log apply filter, like that. Okay, save it. Perfect. Alright. Now let me just quickly go through the app and see if there's any issues. Okay. Alright. Looks good so far. Okay. Alright guys, there you have it. We have finally completed this pretty cool food delivery app based on the UI design that we have just bought recently. The full source code for this project is available on shop.byprogrammers.com, and I have included the link in the description below. Now, as a token of appreciation from us, if you were to get the source code from shop.byprogrammers.com before we release the second part of this project, you will be able to get the source code for the second part entirely for free without any additional charges. Okay, so thanks for watching guys. If you liked the video, we'll be more than happy if you can give it a thumbs up, comment, share to your friends, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I will see you guys in the next video. Happy coding. Peace.